when David looked through the binoculars, he was expecting to see a guy standing off in the forest. But when he looked through the binoculars and saw him close up, he was jolted by it. He was stunned at what he saw, and he described it as being punched in the eyes. Like he was so shocked at what he saw, and it wasn't a person. And his friend asked to see, to see it with the binoculars, and he had the same reaction. He was quite frightened by it, what he was seeing. It was Sunday, November 15th, 1970. David Paul, a pseudonym, then 15, had spent the day pumping gas. His best friend's stepdad owned a garage, and he and said friend Glenn would help out. They would pump gas after school and on weekends. That day, David had left the garage and gotten a ride with Glenn's family back to their place, which was walking distance from his own home. It was around 9 p.m. and dark. Upon exiting the car, David and the others, including Glenn, his stepfather, mother, sister, and brother, were all startled by a flash of light, like a photo being taken. We each thought it had come from a different direction, he noted. There had been a rash of UFO sightings that week in Somerville, New Jersey, where they lived. It was the talk of the area. David and the others acknowledged how odd the light flash was, but they very quickly put it out of their mind and went in the house. A few minutes later, David and Glenn, feeling restless, decided to head over to a nearby middle school to swing on the flagpole rope, quote, just for something to do. We both stopped to rest at the base of the flagpole, which was directly in front of the school, that was facing a busy two-way road. Sitting back-to-back parallel to the school front, we both saw an arching blue light over the tops of the trees, showing above the school from behind it. We both immediately said the same thing. What was that? Both boys agreed that it was just above the shadow of the wooded area immediately behind the playground in the back of the school. It was a blue ball of light which curved down to the treetops and seemingly disappeared. They were both curious about what it might be. We decided to investigate, making our way around to the right side of the school via a blacktop road that went to the back playground area. As we started around the rear corner, we were met with a loud radio-like sound that grew very loud. We backed up to the front of the school until it faded away. We then again made our way around to the back, positioning ourselves against the brick wall at the rear. The back of the schoolyard was situated with an expanse of green grass that extended about 150 yards to the edge of the woods. The blacktop David and Glenn were standing on went about 20 yards to the lawn's edge, with a basketball hoop and a streetlight at the edge. This was occurring at night, so the streetlight made seeing the tree line a little difficult. But as we watched, we could see a figure moving from the path in the woods to the left. When we yelled to ask who it was, it stopped, didn't say anything, and then continued on. We then saw the figure move back to the right and go back into the path. Then at one point we saw two figures moving in opposite directions along the tree line, both stopping when we yelled and then moving again. There's so many cases in which UFOs come down, land in and around schoolyards. Preston Dennett has written an entire book on it. Just all these cases in which UFOs or strange entities are sighted around schools. It makes you wonder why they choose schools of all the places to land. David and Glenn were wondering who was wandering around in the woods in the dark, and why weren't they responding to their calls. As they stood there looking towards the dark woods, something suddenly appeared over the forest. We saw a UFO come from our right above the woods, stopping to the left side of the wooded area at the back of the field. It stopped and hovered above the wood and then moved silently towards our left rear. Then we saw another follow the same route. When I looked to my 2 o'clock, which was in the direction of downtown Somerville, I could see a distinct ceiling of clouds that were reflecting the light from the downtown business area. It lit the bottom of the clouds, creating a clear line of sight below them. I could then see one and then two of the UFOs moving between these clouds and the below skyline. They moved slowly and silently towards us and the woods. According to David, the objects would stop briefly and then circle back and move to their left. While watching this sequence, counting 4 or 5 UFOs, unless we double counted them, one of the UFOs, after stopping above the wooded area, and at which point it should have moved out to our left rear, moved slowly and directly toward Glenn and me. All the while, Glenn and I were confirming that we were both witnessing the same things as they occurred. The object slowly made its way towards the teenage boys, not making a sound until it stopped just above them. It was approximately 40 to 50 feet above us and to our front. It stopped there. We could make out the webbing on the portals or windows, and confirming with Glenn, we both realized it was observing us. It stayed there for what seemed like a full minute or so, and then slowly moved up and again to our rear left shoulder, continuing on its pattern. David acknowledged that he and Glenn were absolutely terrified. It suddenly occurred to them that they needed to get other witnesses. There was a house to the west, their right side, just beyond the gate at the side of the blacktop. They ran to the house and knocked on the door. Sadly, nobody answered. They decided to run the 6 blocks back to Glenn's house and retrieve his camera. We decided to take the chance that they would be gone when we got back. When they arrived at Glenn's house, they frantically searched for the camera but couldn't find it. They did manage to find a pair of binoculars. David asked Glenn if he could borrow a jacket, and he handed him his father's leather biker jacket. He put it on, and the 2 boys headed out, running back to the school as fast as they could. We made our way back and put ourselves again with our backs against the brick wall of the school, and waited to see what was still happening. We were there for a few minutes and didn't see anything, so we decided to move forward toward the grass field and get closer to the tree line, 150 yards or so from the edge of the blacktop. As we moved forward, Glenn let out a shout. "Did you see that?" I nearly jumped out of my skin. I asked him about what he'd seen, and he said, "That guy was running, and he stopped as soon as I shouted." Apparently, whatever it was had been running inside the thin woods, to the east and our left, and had come into view as we cleared the L-shaped part of the school building. At first, when I looked, I didn't see any movement. As we moved toward the object, it appeared to me. David pointed out to Glenn that there appeared to be an object off in the woods. One of the windows of said object appeared to be lit up, and this was illuminating the area. It was a light orange-white color with thin saplings and tall grass in front of it. Glenn insisted that it had been running right up to the second he shouted, so we moved up to about 15 feet from it, and I could make out a figure. It appeared to be a tall, thin man with a large head, a black stripe where the nose was, and a black slit for a mouth. He appeared to be crouched as if to leap in any direction. I tried to discern if what I was seeing was my imagination, and still just light from a window. We then remembered the binoculars we had, so looking up directly at him with the binoculars, it was as if someone had punched me in the eyes. I looked directly into his face. He wasn't looking directly at me. I looked him over and saw that he had a square black something on his chest. He appeared to be wearing something with a collar similar to an astronaut suit's. After a half a minute, he guessed, David decided to try and get his attention. I yelled out, "Hey," loudly. He very quickly turned his face and looked directly at me. Again, it was as if someone had punched me in the eyes. Glenn asked to look, and he raised the glasses to his eyes and let out an "oh" sound and pulled the binoculars from his eyes. Glenn gave the glasses back to me, and we watched for a few minutes. I then said something that embarrassed me. "We mean you no harm." I felt silly after saying that, and didn't try to communicate again. After a time, we started hearing a coughing sound coming from it. David began to wonder if the creature was having trouble breathing. As I watched him, he slowly started to move away from us, when a dog from the other side of the woods started barking. He returned to his crouching middle position. I don't know why at that point, but I suggested to Glenn that we leave him alone. Glenn agreed. So we turned and started back to our position on the schoolhouse wall. As we made our way around the L, and the being was at a view, like a B-grade movie, a police car pulled around the corner of the school and drove up to us. According to David, there were 2 officers in the car. They questioned them, asking them what they were doing in the back of the school at night. We tried to tell them that there was a guy from another planet, again feeling ridiculous, around the corner, but they decided to check out our pockets. Unknown to me that in Glenn's father's jacket, which had very deep pockets, were many books of matches. Great. Now we looked like we were up to something with fire. For some reason, the officers believed them. They then asked them what they were talking about. David and Glenn offered to take them to the spot. The officers agreed and followed them in their car. They followed us in their car as we walked around the L-shaped wing to the east, our left, and as we did, I said to Glenn, "Now, you know he's not going to be there." It just felt like that would be in keeping with the impossibility of everything else that had occurred. Sure enough, he was gone. The officers then exited the car. While standing in the spot, Glenn and David described to them exactly what they had seen. One scoffed and said we were high or something, but the one next to me swallowed in the classic gulping way you do when you're scared. They got back in their car, drove into the field shining their light on the thin wooded area briefly, and turned around and yelled for us to get out of the area, and then drove off. We then left as told. I've actually covered on this channel several cases in the past where some weird event happens, a UFO is sighted, and suddenly police show up. Just like it's like perfectly timed. They just show up. Could be a back road in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly just cops show up. And this case is another one that where the cops show up right at the nick of time. And in this case, in the other cases I've covered, it seems like a little more than a coincidence that there was something going on. But this case, it does actually sound like it might have been a coincidence, just judging by the reaction of the officers involved. That one was kind of scoffed, and the other one was visually spooked, according to the witness. To this day, I often think about what may have happened had we lingered for no more than 2 minutes more with the being. the police would have continued to our position and been witnesses with us. No telling what would have happened at that point. It truly haunts me. Glenn died last year. In the very infrequent contact we had over the years, we always included our memory of that night. For a time right afterwards, I experienced what I now know as PTSD. Glenn was a good drawer and drew the creature in school one day, and it sent me back into a brief shock. Later that year, to make legitimacy even more strained, the National Enquirer was offering $10,000 for photographic proof of UFOs. On the cover of one of their issues, taking up the right edge top to bottom, was our guy. Perfectly him. I have since tried to get a copy of it, but can't find it. I think it may be in the Library of Congress, but it isn't available online as yet. I hope to get a copy and frame it and hang it in my office. The sightings that the whole town had seen, including my mother and sisters, claim that there were 3 crafts, with one appearing in trouble, and 2 on either side of it following. We surmised through the years that they were maybe repairing the craft in the woods, and we happened there. If we had a camera, especially a video camera, not common then, we could have made a feature movie. Glenn and I, at the time, knew that as time went on, we would ourselves start to doubt what happened. But it did. I often wish I could write it off to imagination or something else. But it happened. That's my story. I would have done things differently today, but perhaps that wouldn't work out as well as it did. But had I understood the gravity of what was happening, I certainly would have tried something different. Just another thing that haunts me. He claims that over the years, him and his friend had surmised that something had happened to one of the craft, and it had come down into the forest, and they were doing repairs on it. Possibly it crashed. Maybe that was the flash of light they saw. And that when they got there, they were in the process of fixing this object, and they watched as a whole bunch of other crafts showed up and basically assisted. And they were seeing these figures running back and forth in the woods. And it sounds like that. And at one point he does say that he heard like a coughing sound. And it makes you wonder if this being was possibly injured and it wasn't a crash of some kind.